here's a little planter of lettuce I planted early fall, doing super well in the cold temperatures. I didn't transplant it, but pretty soon I'll be able to harvest baby greens. And there's another one doing well here. Welcome to another day of a Vlogmas. For today's video, we are doing a backyard garden tour for the first time ever in December. Today's video is a collab with the one and only Grandma Sandy. Go check her out. She does garden tours every Saturday. First of all, this is my cottage garden and it has some character. The boxwoods are definitely showing their true colors in this winter garden. They each have quite a bit of character. They are all decked out for the season. The Dusty Millers are really the stars of the show in this border right now. They are putting on so much new growth. In December, they started really taking off in the fall and they have not stopped. They are all looking better than they have ever looked since planting them in the spring of 2022. They are on fire with growth right now. Moving into this little planter that I made. This is just like a DIY Christmas tree, Charlie Brown style in this planter with a few little ornaments for the holiday season. Into the upper part of the garden, we're going to do a quick little check of the vegetable garden. Here are my kale plants and they're making a really good rebound. I have to say, Supervisor has been cutting back on his consumption of greens lately, and that has allowed a lot of my plants to rebound finally. These kale plants are also doing much better now that he has taken a break from eating them. Broccoli rebounding, but not very quickly. There's more broccoli over here, and it's doing a little better than the first one I showed you, but I think Supervisor might still be eating them every now and then, so they are very slow to recover from his munching. Coming up the gravel pathway, here we have some mallow, which also has some relatively fresh looking flowers on it. There's a new bud about to open, a new flower here. And there's another one at the top. Still going strong in early days of December. And coming up to the top of the gravel pathway, the bush right in front of you, right here, this is a barberry bush. Another great bush for winter interest. It gets these little red berries that the birds do enjoy eating. And it is super prickly. This is more prickly than any rose I've ever seen. And great for security purposes. If you have an area you want to protect and you can grow this plant, no intruder is going to want to touch it. So definitely a plant you could plant for security reasons. Over here is one of my blueberry bushes. This one is on a completely different growth cycle than the one I have here or the ones on my gravel pathway. When this bush was about 1 year old, I accidentally weed whacked it down to just about an inch above the ground with 2 or 3 leaves. And it rebounded, but it screwed up the growth cycle. From then on, it has been on weird growth cycles. Now that it's winter, this bush thinks that it is fall. One of the things I love about this backyard garden are the boxwoods. I actually never planted any of these. These were part of the original landscaping that was here about 10 years ago when I started gardening here. And I love them. I would have never planted them, but I love having them. Coming up at this border, here is my The supervisor has arrived. Mister, no barking. Right here we have my rock rose ground cover. It actually does stay evergreen all winter here in the Pacific Northwest, even down to -15, which we did get last year and the year before in winter. Still had foliage on it, so it is definitely a true evergreen in zone 7 to 8 on Vancouver Island. We're gonna go a little further up the gravel pathway. Lots of autumn joy sedum here, providing lots of winter interest. This is a little blueberry bush. And coming up a little further, my calendulas are just trying to start blooming now. I transplanted these early autumn and they are taking off now that it is December, putting on fresh growth and new blooms. I think they're a little confused with the weather patterns. Over here we've got lots of fallen leaves from my Japanese maple. I'm just letting them sit on the ground all winter, although I may clean up a little closer to the fence because that is not good for wood, organic matter. I haven't done that yet, but I definitely need to get to that soon. And this little rose at the back, oh my goodness, it's putting on new growth. Definitely confused as to what season it is, this poor little plant. Hope the cold weather doesn't kill it when it does arrive. And we are actually in twilight right now. I'm not sure if you can tell, the Christmas lights are starting to get a little more vibrant on the plants. In the middle, that is my 9-bark with the blue Christmas lights. And over here, this is my plum tree. This is my plum tree that has multicolored lights on it. Supervisor is doing his duties, looking after the neighborhood. The shrub right here is the burning bush that has now gone dormant for the season. Coming up here, this is my double pink knockout rose. Only one rose left on this bush, but we're gonna leave it for now. And yes, I definitely need to come in here and clean up the middle of this rose. It has seen better days, but hopefully I'll get to do that soon. And my autumn joy sedum. Yes, it looks like it is at the end of its season, but it adds a lot of winter interest to the border. There's still a little bit of color in these dried flowers. I'm calling them dried. There's still moisture in these, but they're almost like they're dried on the stem. I could probably take them in and dry them out very quickly in the house. One little pansy in my cottage garden trying to bloom, and I absolutely love the bloom. Beautiful little pop of color. A couple blooms left here. This one is definitely faded, but there is still a bud here, so that might still open. And most of the foliage on this knockout rose still looks super healthy. I do need to come in here and clean up the middle, but I'm actually planning to leave the healthy looking foliage until much later, or if it starts to look like this, then I'll do it sooner. But this year I was planning to leave the foliage a little bit later than usual, just to see how the roses do through winter. The garden is definitely mostly dormant at this stage of the season, but there's little bits of life here and there in this garden. Most of the leaves are gone off the deciduous trees and shrubs and plants. Not a ton of flowers blooming right now, but the alyssum's still doing really well in this cold temperature. Cold being 10 degrees Celsius. I'm cold, but it's not actually cold. And just a short distance from the alyssum, we have some oregano. The flowers are pretty much dried on, and I did harvest some of these, but I wanted to leave some because I thought if and when we do get snow, it'll look so pretty when it's covered in snow. My purple kale is loving this cold weather. It is looking really good. And my green onions out here are doing fantastic. In fact, I'm going to pick some for my dinner. I have green onion both in the house and out of the house that is ready for harvesting. Here is one of my rock rose shrubs. I would call this a semi-evergreen. That's what it was advertised as when I bought it at the nursery. As you can see, it does have a few leaves, but most of them actually do fall off. So does that make it a semi-evergreen? I don't really know. It has a couple little flowers. I do appreciate this little pop of color when most of the garden is very dormant. We're going to check out a few flowers that are still blooming in the rock garden. Here we have some autumn joy sedum that still has a little bit of color on it, but going just a little further down in the rock garden, some of my creeping phlox is trying to bloom in December. Today is December the 10th, and it is really trying hard to bloom, this little creeping phlox plant. I wouldn't mind if it bloomed in December. That would be pretty cool. Doesn't usually happen at this time of year. And my pansies are trying to bloom all over my rock garden. These little flowers are very cold tolerant. Although it has been pretty mild so far this winter. I just love the little pops of purple everywhere. And my calendula flowers, they have not stopped blooming since mid to late spring. They started blooming and literally have not stopped. They go through cycles where they're more prolific and less prolific, but they are continually blooming. And I absolutely love these pops of orange in the winter landscape. My alyssum still has some color on it. It is starting to fade, but still a nice little bit of color in this winter landscape right here. It is December 7th today, so if this little tiny little strawberry is actually ripe, that would be amazing. I would say that strawberry was ripe, but weirdly enough, it developed a different flavor in the cold than it typically has. I would call it more juicy and less like cotton candy than usual, but still really good. Don't know how to describe it, but delicious. That's going to be all for this mini garden tour. I hope you are having a lovely December, and we will see you tomorrow with another Vlogmas video. Bye for now.